Hey, Ben Errez is here. Ben Errez is the chairman and co-founder of RYVYL. And their stock symbol is RYVL. RVYL. I knew that. Let's see. Somebody's got to can Greg Totter off here. Can somebody fire him? RVYL. Well, let me tell you, I got an excuse because you changed your stock symbol in your name. Great to have you. And you are the person who is the only person that's actually successfully described to us how blockchain and digital currency works and why payment systems for such are going to be the on-ramp for all of us. It's not really the investing in. In fact, I was thinking about you the other day as I was talking about you to someone. I realized that it's not a function of us investing in digital currencies that's going to make us money. It's when we realize that the on-ramp to digital currency is really payment systems. Correct. Don't you think? Now, what do you do when you go to a grocery store? You get your stuff, and what's the other? Zip, zip, you're out, right?
Yeah, tap and go.
I would already say the same $40 in your wallet, which is about what I have in my wallet at all times, is the same $40 I've had since the last time I went to a hotel, because that's the last time I had to tip somebody, right?
Yeah.
I mean, right? You go to a restaurant, you're tipping them this way, right?
Right.
I don't know any other opportunities you got to tip people, but hotel, valet, restaurant. Other than that, though, we're paying for everything else through automatic payment systems as well as electric. So talk about that, because you guys really are one of the first and safest ways to pay. And I think that the real on-ramp to digital currency is how we're going to pay with digital currency, correct?
Correct, yeah. And even, when you mentioned the tipping, even tipping now in all sorts of venues is done digitally. The great extreme of that is a performance in a gentleman's club with a tattoo that has a QR code on it, and
what?
You just point your phone and tip.
Mike's trying to look innocent here, but somehow I realize you know this. So
even that is possible.
I got a barcode here. See, if I were a valet. That's here.
Yeah, why not?
Right? Or
Here's
what?
my QR.
QR code.
Right.
Yeah.
You can do it with a sticker or with a tattoo.
Talk about the difference in when we're talking about paying for goods and services in dollars versus digital, and the current infrastructure and the blockchain. Talk about the merging of it, but talk about the differences right now and the problems right now.
Yeah, so we see essentially the same problems that we forecasted years ago. Those were defined in my white paper 2 years ago in saying that we need these basic principles to be in every payment system, especially digital systems. Number one, full backup in fiat for every digital system. Number two, these funds, these custodial funds, cannot be utilized in any other fashion other than for custody. Number three, these have to be verified by a third-party entity.
What you're describing is digital currency in the blockchain.
Correct, absolutely. And what's the difference between digital currency and stablecoin? They both describe the same thing. They both reference the same underlying value. The only difference is that the standard digital currency that the government is playing with now, and other ideas that are floating out there, versus stablecoin, is the single point of truth, right? That everybody is looking at the same ledger, everybody has the same basic information, nobody can manipulate it. It's write once, read many. This is the basic principle in every custodial system in our view.
And I think what's interesting here is the way it changes the way we do business, or will do business. Talk about that. Talk about now and then.
Yeah, so you guys like statistics.
Sure. Sure.
I always come here with statistics.
Yeah, I love it.
Industry standards in terms of chargebacks, and those are transactions that never complete into material change of custody of the payment method, right, the fiat. So industry standards are limited at 1%. By count. Industry average is just under 0.5%. Okay. On our system, it's 0.03%. This is what we averaged last year.
So chargebacks don't exist?
Almost. Yeah, because
what causes chargebacks, by the way?
So unauthorized use of payment cards,
Sure.
Fake transactions, identity theft.
So it's usual fraud.
Right.
Right. Why does fraud not exist on your system? I know why fraud exists on the current system.
Yeah.
Why does fraud not exist?
So we have information, because we use this kind of a technology, we have information that is not available to others. So for example, we have biometrics, right? We have fingerprinting, we have face recognition. We have AI tools that we add onto our system. For example, R0, and we have our own internal tools that cause a finite, almost finite identification of the payor. We know the location, we know the time frame, we know the habits of the purchaser. We correlate all of those into an intelligent
You guys know
system.
metadata on the purchaser.
Correct.
Because it's crowdsourced just by nature of us being out in the universe, correct?
It's because the ledger is not erasable. Once you do something, it becomes part of what describes you.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
So if you're on vacation in Florida, you're
know-
not buying
now-
pianos in Chicago.
Now you know, okay.
Right.
It's a great point.
So Ben, back to the
Yes, sir.
gentleman's club. No. I just,
What she says almost
Yeah,
every day. Let's go back to the gentleman's club.
in your lifetime, do you think you'll see it to the point, as far as the United States is concerned, where it absolutely becomes the norm? Are we on that trajectory, or?
Yes. So
Okay.
many years ago, I used to work for Microsoft, and my boss was Bill Gates.
No, I love these stories because
Yeah,
that's
so
what he did for Microsoft.
in the year 2000, Bill was being interviewed about his projections over the internet. And he said, people are dramatically overstating the abilities of the internet over the next 5 years, and dramatically understating what the internet will do in 10 years. I think this is true today for AI, for payment systems. We will see huge explosion of these tools just taking over our life, whether we like it or not.
Is that why Bill Gates came out with his comments about digital currency and such recently? Do you think he's on the right track again in his predictions?
I think so.
Okay, so it's sort of the same thing as let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's going to be something, just not today.
Yeah, Bill correctly differentiates between the standard cryptocurrency and stablecoin.
Sure.
I think everybody believes it's stablecoin. We all see this is tokenization of payment ecosystems is where we're going.
Yeah.
This is dramatically different than cryptocurrency that has no intrinsic value.
Well, it's just it's fiat without any experiential.
Well, it's not
sort of
fiat.
value.
It's imaginary fiat
It's imaginary fiat
that
because it's
people
got no-
pretend to have.
That's exactly right.
It's like the old
It's
Ronald
not even-
Reagan joke.
It's not even based on perception. It's based on someone's idea or someone's dialogue of what their perception should be.
Yeah, if you recall, Ronald Reagan had a famous joke about Russians where he said, the typical government employee in Russia pretends to work, and the Russian government pretends to pay him. This is the whole economy of crypto in one sentence.
Before we let you out of here, RYVYL is the name of the company. RVYL is the new stock symbol. Of course, Ben Errez is our guest. He's the chairman and co-founder. It's great to have you here, and I want you more often. I wanted you to tell us what you're looking most forward to for the company here in 2023, because lots of stuff. You did a lot of stuff last year. Talk about what's going on this year.
So a lot of things are happening with the company now. First of all, we joined the battle against naked shorts. We
talked
see
about
that
you earlier in the program.
Yeah,
The biggest threat to our capital markets is this naked shorting and such. And you guys are on that list of
Right.
folks that joined that lawsuit. Talk about where that's going.
Yeah, so we did some research recently with a very capable team that we have seen deployed with the Genius and with Cosmos and with other players in the industry. We see trends that are frightening. We went back 5 years on our ledger. our stock, both on the OTC and on NASDAQ. And we have identified interesting trends for short selling, including naked short selling, of about 43% of all trades on our stock.
Sure.
Calculating that to today, that forms about $900 million lost to the company and its investors.
And that's just one, and that's one company.
And that's one company.
Yeah.
And not a large one,
Yeah.
a small one.
Well, what that,
so-
and how that translates is not just wealth for investors. It also translates in limiting you as a company, because the perception of new investment coming in is false.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, they're looking at what you guys can do, and they say, okay, there's a lot of great things happening. Look at the press releases, things are going well. Why is the price not acting like the news? And this is the problem with any
So-
stock under $10 that's suffering through a naked short. And by the way, shorting, once again, you borrow shares from your broker, you sell those shares, you buy them back at a cheaper price. Hopefully the stock is going down, and you keep the difference and make a profit.
Yeah, but regulation-
Naked shorting is you don't borrow the shares, you just sell them, and you get the money back. And but here's the deal: when you trade stock either way, you get your cash in 2 days. It's called T+2. It used to be T+3. Broker to broker, though, when they're settling up the borrowed shares, 20 trading days. They're never, ever catching
settle.
up. It never settles.
Oh, my God.
And the regulators are not in any position. So that's what you guys are doing with Congress here, is saying, hey, look,
Right.
you got to stop naked shorting. It can't exist anymore. It's
Right, so-
illegal already, but they've got to do something more about it.
What we're trying to do is get the regulator, and particularly the SEC, to follow up on the existing regulations. So Regulation SHO has a rule called Rule 203B1, which basically forces or regulates every broker to identify the underlying security for every sale.
So
And there's only three
you gotta,
options.
You got to true up.
Exactly. It's called the location.
Right.
So you have to locate the underlying security and identify it, code it in the sale transaction
So if I
as
want to
either
borrow,
a
if I
long,
want to borrow
short, or
100
exempt.
If I want to borrow 100 shares of RYVYL to bet against it or short it, you better identify those shares that I'm borrowing.
Right.
Not
So
just
you
let me sell them.
According to the regulations, you either have to have this stock in your possession to short it,
Yeah.
or have a reasonable opportunity to acquire it before you have to present it.
So who's the culpable party? Is it the market maker? Is it the broker dealer? Or is it
The broker
person
dealers.
shorting? Yeah, I think
It's
so.
the broker dealers.
Oh.
So the problem is that broker dealers have a great incentive, and we spoke about it the last time, to basically bend the rules
Because
that's
they get
their source of
commissions.
capital.
Because they
Exactly.
get commissions. Exactly.
Exactly.
Right. It's the same reason. It's the same sort of argument
Again.
that we had with the mortgage-backed securities that caused the financial collapse.
Correct.
2008, 2009. Why did we have mortgage-backed securities? Why were we giving out loans by fogging up a mirror? Because mortgage brokers got a commission.
Exactly.
And then we created derivatives off that. And then they sold it, and the guy who sold it to this. So I've got all these mortgages here that I just funded. I'm going to sell it to the next guy. Well, if I'm going to sell it, I get a commission on it.
Right.
And this guy says, well, I'm going to sell it to a bigger, got a commission on that. And,
Right.
and this is what perpetuates the problem. And at some point,
But you know what? This is a great example, because the same problem that existed in mortgage-backed securities, where you have a mortgage for $1,000
Yeah.
and a security backed in it for $1,500.
sure.
Same thing happens here.
Yeah.
Some brokers allowed for a sale of stock that is in a number that is greater than the total shares outstanding, meaning there was never
They loaned
a
out
reasonable
300
opportunity
They
to
loaned
buy
out
back
300
the underlying security.
They loaned out 300% of 100%.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, is why the SEC
Exactly.
exists in the first place. Because back in the 20s, they were selling 300% of 100% of Mike's prison hooch alcohol company.
I knew it.
His name is Ben Errez. RYVYL, RYVYL. What's the new website, by the way?
RYVYL.com.
RYVYL.com. There you go. Put it on our website. Thank you, bud. Appreciate it. Good to
All
see you
right.
as usual.
Yeah.
More Big Biz coming up. Sully Costa. Now I got you thinking, huh? RYVYL to the rescue. See you in a minute.